Our music video mainly follows the conventions of the metal music genre through the use of our mise-en-scene, our editing techniques, and through the use of camera. During the planning and research stages, we found that the majority of metal bands that we researched into used dark clothing, with the usual colour schemes being that of blacks, greys or browns, which is commonly used with bands such as Sepultura, Slipknot and Avenged Sevenfold. We therefore wanted to make our music video follow these mise-en-scene conventions, and we plan to follow these conventions and incorporate them into our own music video. For the main protagonist and the lead singer of the band, I decided to wear dark clothing, and so I chose to wear a black and grey coat over a black shirt, black jeans, black shoes and a paintball mask to match this theme of darkness to conventions used in the research products. The paintball mask that is also used by the protagonist and the lead singer also adds to this effect, but also links to the death of the bully when the protagonist is trying to cover his identity, which then links into the live performance shots, as the lead singer has the same clothing as the protagonist in the narrative, giving the sense that the protagonist is thinking back to bad memories that he may have experienced. We also had the bully in the narrative wear a black hoodie, a black shirt and black jeans, which also links to this theme, which was also similarly used by the drummer of the band, who had a grey hoodie, black shirt and black jeans. We did, however, run into some issues with mise-en-scene during the live performance shots, as two of our band members didn't really fit the style of the metal conventions, and so this goes against these conventions as they wear colourful clothing. One of the guitarists fits the style more than the other, however, as he wears a grey jacket with red, white and black sleeves, with a black shirt underneath, in which the red is a bit too bright for our conventions. However, this style is much more appropriate than that of the bass guitarist, who wears a shirt with blue and light grey stripes and white trousers, as they didn't have access to other clothing that would match the conventions, and so therefore this was one of our biggest issues with mise-en-scene. However, these issues are very minor and aren't too noticeable by our target audience. In terms of the lighting, we took a very similar approach to other metal products and decided to follow these conventions. We found that in some metal music videos, such as that of Psychosocial by Slipknot, the theme of death and horror used in the shots would be linked in by filming in the dark. We used the lighting to add to the grim nature of the narrative, and we chose to film during the times when it was cloudy and quite dark out, and this was quite difficult to do, as it would usually be too dark to film when we got home from college, limiting us to only filming on weekends and Wednesdays, so that we could get the lighting to perfectly match this dark and dull feeling present. There were also issues throughout where our product was a bit too bright during the narrative scenes. This was seen at the start when the protagonist is walking from his home towards the graveyard, and it is clear that it was filmed on a different and sunny day. We tried to counter this during editing by matching the lighting and colour palettes used in the darker scenes. However, this wasn't very effective, as it could clearly be seen as the direct rate of sunlight wasn't changed. Some scenes were also much lighter, such as the scene before the bully was killed, as we had to try and match up the current time setting so that it would make sense with the passage of time from when it was lighter and when the bully was killed to when the protagonist buried the body, and so in this sense our product goes against the usual conventions, as we try to present a realistic representation of the time change throughout the narrative, and so we had to therefore scrap the idea of it being continuously dark throughout the narrative. As I also mentioned before, the time at which we filmed was the only possibility, and so we couldn't have made the scenes any darker, as the camera quality would have been vastly affected, and so therefore it meant that we had to try and balance quality with the lighting used in our narrative. One example of this is from one of our test footage, in which we tried to stretch the amount of time we could film in. We tried to film the graveyard shots in much darker lighting conditions to try and create a greater sense of feeling around the theme of death, and to create a horror-like atmosphere that would develop upon normal metal conventions. During filming, however, we found multiple issues with filming during this time, as it would be too dark to see the protagonist, and also the visual quality was greatly affected. As the music was quite slow for a metal song, we therefore felt the need to make the pace of edit much slower than that of other music videos. We also added location to add to the pace of the song, as the shots in all of our locations only include the protagonist, and therefore this adds the effect of seclusion in our narrative, and so this seclusion has a type of slowness as it allows the character to stop and think about what he is doing. This is shown during the start of the music video when the protagonist is holding his head in his hands, We also used him to travel to location, as it shows the build-up to a certain event, which is also related to the build-up to the start of the song. During construction, we wanted to create a strong relationship between the visuals and the lyrics used in the song. We wanted to add some type of storytelling in this way as the protagonist looks back on this event of history, and so therefore the lyrical and visual relationship creates a sense that the protagonist is singing about his past and the events that are shown in the narrative. This can be seen from the strong feeling of death and shots of the graveyard used during the lyrical sequences of "And We Were Never Alive," and so this therefore presents the idea that the lead singer, who is also the protagonist of the narrative, is viewing his bad memories and links to the graveyard that he visited to the theme of death used. Therefore, this goes against the normal research metal conventions, as from our research, none of the bands who we looked at used this technique, and instead filled the music video with live performance shots. We wanted to develop on these conventions and match the slow-paced narrative to the slowness of the song, so that we could create a strong narrative throughout, whilst also keeping hold of the conventions of death and violence throughout. We used camera throughout to capture these conventions, such as the low-angle shot looking up at the protagonist looking at the grave. This shot creates a feeling that the protagonist is actually looking down on the audience, but then it is revealed that he's looking at a grave, and this creates quite an intimidating feeling, as it gives the audience the feeling that he's looking down on them, and also creates a puzzle for the audience to what the protagonist could be digging up and why, which is later revealed. And as mentioned before, this is matched up to the build-up to the start of the song, and the build-up to when the song gets quicker. Rick Altman said that genre contains different types of pleasure of those of visceral, emotional, and intellectual. Our music video presents both emotional and visceral pleasures throughout. For example, the dull, dark weather along with dark clothing worn by the cast throughout create a strong visceral pleasure towards the target audience, as I have mentioned above. In addition to this, it also creates a very strong emotional pleasure, which can be in the form of anger towards the bully or protagonist, or a sense of pity towards the protagonist, although our music video was mainly aimed to create a visceral pleasure rather than that of an emotional one. Steve Neal also said in 1995 that genres are processes of systemization, and so therefore we can interpret this as change in genres. This can be seen in our music video, as we went against some of the conventions of the metal music genre and instead developed upon it. This can be seen through the strong narrative that is seen throughout the music video, as this isn't usually a popular feature in metal music videos, who instead focus on creating an energetic live performance video, whereas ours is much slower and has a much bigger focus on narrative. The theory of McQuail, who said that music videos can give some sense of integration and social interaction to the audience, can also be seen in our music video, as people who may be bullied at school or who may feel the same emotions as the protagonist in the narrative will be able to relate, and this will give them a sense of belonging in our music video and may take them away from reality and their thoughts in the real life and put them in our music video. Keith Grant also suggested that music videos include subgenres, and therefore this can be seen in our music video, as our product includes both elements from rock and metal shown in the form of alternative metal. It shows the same conventions as metal, as the themes of death and violence are used, but these aren't as strong as normal metal music videos, and so therefore our music video also shows elements of appearing as a rock video. This can also be proven in the theory of Nicholas Abercrombie, who states that music genres can become hybrids of one another, and this once again shows how my music video has merged both rock and metal elements into one video.